introduction. Hi guys, Cade Mila Fulcher.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to Plastic Paddies / Therapy Thursdays. This is episode number 2, and our lovely Patricia Ahern is back with us.
I'm very excited.
She's very excited
to be back.
Guys, if you thought last time was great, wait until you see the plethora of research and surveys and all the things that have been happening between last episode and this episode. You're in for a treat, I'll say that. So this week's episode, we have got we have got a very exciting topic, a very universal topic.
Yes.
A very controversial topic, I would say, some might say.
Yeah.
Last time, you might remember briefly that Patricia, the last month's topic was identity.
Mm-hmm.
And within that conversation, Patricia mentioned something about self-love. And after watching the episode back, me and Patricia had a conversation and decided that love, why not? The perfect topic for our next episode. And there's so much to say about it, isn't there? So that is our topic this month, is LOVE, love.
Love.
Oh. So, again, I'll just give Patricia a very quick reintroduction for anybody that hasn't watched episode 1. If you haven't, I'm going to link it below. Go and watch it. It's very, very good. But Patricia Ahern is a mental fitness coach. And more importantly, she's my very good friend. And you are a poet and a writer and all of the things.
A creative.
A creative in general, I would say, absolutely.
Yes. Newfound creativity,
which is a big part of your work, isn't it?
Yes.
Is getting people to kind of unlock their creativity within that they might believe that they actually don't have. Patricia is here to show everybody that we do have it. Everybody has creativity in some way, some form, and she will pull it out of you.
She's gonna
in the nicest way possible. Gently. She'll coax it out of you. That's right. Very right.
With encouragement.
Absolutely. And before we jump into the juicy meat of the podcast, I just wanted to remind you of what Therapy Thursdays actually is. It's just a space where we give ourselves a little bit more time to dig deeper into some subjects that we think deserve that little bit more time. And we want to... I think the subjects are maybe a little bit more serious than the topics which we cover on our normal weekly episodes. And we're doing it, I suppose, to achieve a bit of a deeper connection to our Irish heritage and sort of learn about ourselves and how being part of the Irish diaspora really shapes you and how you view the world through that lens. So yeah, that's the whole purpose. And of course, building a community. We want to build a community of people for you all to feel safe to address your problems. Isn't the right turn of phrase, but
maybe turn inwards.
That's right. Sort of have a moment of introspection, and if there's anything that you're struggling with, or
just like, I think that's
maybe come here and sort of just know that you're not alone. You know, people are going through it as well.
So the extension of the community.
Absolutely. Perfectly said, Sean. Thank you very much.
And I wanted to add perspectives, that introspection, that inside-out journey, and perspectives on subjects, and maybe planting the seeds of thought, as I put it.
Yeah.
How you root the seed is up to you, but it's information and discussion, really. And this week it's about love. I just want to mention that recently I started using a green heart for my emoji on WhatsApp when I instead more so than the red.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the significance of the green heart, but the significance for me is Irish love.
It's like a little personal love.
Patricia. That's very, very sweet. So we're going to jump right into it, guys. It's love. Big old block capital letters, LOVE.
Yeah, it's a double foot jump.
Yeah. So love. I think I'm going to open up the conversation first of all, just between us three, and say, what is love for you guys?
Can I just start with, 5 minutes before we started recording, I
Mm-hmm.
get a text from a friend of mine. I did the survey, which we'll talk about a little bit in a little bit, and they sent. It was a letter that a young 6-year-old wrote when asked what is love, and she wrote, "Love is when you're missing some of your teeth, but you're not afraid to smile because you know your friends will still love you even though some of you is missing."
Which is so cute.
It was too
So
beautiful,
sweet.
not to mention from
Yeah.
a 6-year-old, and I think there's a lot in that.
Yeah.
I completely agree, and I think there's a lot to be said about how how everybody views love when they're young, and as you grow and inevitably have experiences, some negative experiences, how your view of what love is probably is warped and completely different. But at some point, everybody has a view of love that's similar
Like
to
a
that. When
rose-
you're a child, it's very
rose-colored glasses
innocent
view.
and it's very pure and untainted. So yeah,
I think it can be, but I think it's generalizing as well. Kind of, it can be a generalization because you know, you can get 10. And you mentioned something about in your school doing this with Valentine's, but it can be, you could get 10 6-year-olds and it could be very, very different. It may not all be that kind of sweet either, you know, but it really depends on what's happening inside of us and what's happening in our environment, really. But it's a beautiful question, and I think there's nothing more constant than change, and even our viewpoints and perspectives on love change throughout our life, as you said, because of our experiences with the topic, you know, with love.
I can start. We all know how much I love. I think I have two answers, because I think love falls into two categories, like just love in general and then romantic love. I think love in general is just like wholeheartedly accepting somebody, not for who you want them to be, but for who they are, like that just come as you are type of deal. And then I think romantic love is something I am chasing in adult life. Like I think that's a big adult milestone that a lot of us set out for ourselves.
And do you think the two play into each other? Like, do you think that when it comes to your romantic love, that the rule is also accepting somebody as they present themselves to you?
I think
not as who you want them to be.
I think it should be. I don't think it is, though, because I think if you think of I think romantic love, people have these checklists, and really nobody.
Do you have a checklist?
Oh yeah. And is anybody gonna check every box? No, and they shouldn't, because I should. You know, if I love somebody, I should accept them for who they are and know who they could be. But it's a work in
easier said
progress.
than done. Yeah, it definitely is. Patricia, yourself.
Well, just on that, I think the chasing love, I've done a lot of work and study around self-love, and later on I do a poem on the, kind of my self-love journey. I think growing up in my younger life, I never thought of love or unconditional love. Unconditional didn't come into it, but I now believe in this moment in my life that unconditional love is the purest form of love for me. So I think unconditional is a big thing when I'm thinking about love. Loving somebody or somebody loving me for who I am, not on conditions of how I behave or what I say or how I act or what I do. That feeling of just being loved, that's what I think is the most important for me with love. And trust is a huge thing. And I often said respect and trust. And even in my life, you don't have to like me, but respect and the trust of that you get from somebody, it's a beautiful thing, and it's a great relationship. And I think when there's love involved and trust and respect, it's a beautiful combination.
And do you think that your view of love or definition of what it means to you has changed as you've gotten older?
Yes, as I said, I think years ago I wouldn't have used the word unconditional love because it wasn't synonymous for me with love. I never knew the difference really. And when I did and I learned about it, it kind of blew my mind a bit, because I was like, and now years later, after the work I do, I really truly believe it's the purest form, that we are all born with love. It is the very essence of us, and the heart is where that energy of love comes from. And the heart came up, a lot of people in the survey we done So yeah, I do think the unconditional love is purest, and I think it's a beautiful thing to feel unconditional love, and even to give unconditional love. You know,
I'd say for myself, love is first and foremost the most important kind of love that I think everybody is deserving of. Is your own love for yourself, self-love, and it's something that I have been trying to work on for as long as I can remember, and it's something I struggle with a lot. I think most people do. If they're completely 100% honest, I think a lot of people would say that they struggle with it, and I think that's really the foundation of any other love that you're ever going to receive or give. Has to be built on love for yourself. I don't know if anybody watching or listening will be able to relate, but I know for certain that when my self-love feels low, it's very difficult for me to accept love from other people, because those feelings of not being worthy or not feeling good enough, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like you believe those things about yourself, and when somebody tries to give you love or show you love, it's all back to the saboteurs. You know, you do work with saboteurs. We'll learn more about this as the Therapy Thursday episodes go on, and we'll learn all about
self-sabotaging behaviour from the saboteurs.
Absolutely, and and it's also very difficult when you don't have love to yourself to give love to other people. It's
I think, like Tricia was saying, it's like it's at the center of everything, and when it's radiating, it flows freely in both directions.
Absolutely.
And when it's not, you're like, nope.
It's like an energy, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. So for me, that is definitely self-love is the foundation of all other love, I would say.
I was gonna say, what about romantic love? Like, what other kinds of love when you filled that self-love or work?
I feel like that is that other love. That's the big one, isn't it? It's the drug. Because if you lived on this planet on your own, you could muster all the self-love in the world, but there's nothing else to. Do you know what I mean? It's love from other people is really, this is like a big bold dramatic statement, but it's really what life is all about. It's what life is worth living for, isn't it? The relationships that you build with people throughout your life.
I think connection and love with that is like a foundational need, just as much as like food and water.
Anything else,
So I do think that I was just going to say the same word, that connection. So the self-love is the connection with self and ourselves. And as you said, when it's within us, how pure and authentic it is to put that outwards. So the connection with other people, it's been proven in the research, an 80-year research. There's a book called The Good Life, and they followed people who live longer and who were well and healthy. And they said, like, over a good diet, the people who had good human connection and that love and connection and belonging and all of that, which kind of are synonymous really, they were living longer. So I think, but as you said, that inside out journey, and how then the dynamic between the two people, and it degenerates.
But like on a psychological level, for children to thrive and develop into adulthood, they need love and connection. And if you remove that, they can't develop at the same rate as their peers.
There's serious consequences if kids don't receive love.
There's serious consequences, and interestingly enough, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a theory. Now, again, after our physiological needs are met, food, shelter, clothing, there is a need for belonging, love,
a sense of connection,
and all of those. So it is that a pyramid, really.
Because obviously love isn't going to replace food. We understand that, but it's fourth on his hierarchy of needs.
But if somebody feels that, well, I fed and watered you, that should be enough. But actually, the attachment and that being needed, being wanted, feeling belonging, and part of something is a human need within us as much as food and water and shelter.
You got to feed and water them, and then feed and water their soul. It's two.
And I think I've said that if somebody is malnutritioned and their physiological needs are not met, we look at them and we can see there's obvious physical things that we can see, differences we can see. If somebody's emotional needs are not left, they don't feel like they belong, they don't feel like they fit in, they don't feel their emotional needs are met, their feelings are not validated, how does that manifest?
in behavior.
Yeah.
So I think this is a big thing for my learning, and as a coach I try to help people to separate the person from the behavior, because a lot of the time if we knew the backstory from the child, it'll break our heart rather than annoy us and make us angry. Because if they don't feel that love and they don't feel that belonging and that connection, it can really hurt inside, but it's invisible. So
it's the whole they're not giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time concept.
Yeah, there's this saying, something along the lines of the people that are hardest to love are the ones that need it the most. And it's so true. Like, and it's just the real test. Like the universe, God, whatever. If you have one of those beliefs, I really feel like, for me, it's God. I feel like that is one of the biggest tests from God of humanity, is to love somebody when it's really, really hard to love them.
Yeah, because I think love is unconditional and it is always flowing in an energy, but it's a choice. Like you have to be like, yeah, I'm going to choose to love that person.
I'm going to stick with it even when it's hard.
I think forgiveness comes into that as well, because loving somebody, people have said this, even in this survey, I had some interesting conversations, and the love. So, and actually, the other thing is, I just want to mention, I wrote a psychology's blog, and it's called "Challenging People, Challenge Your Behaviors." If anyone's interested,
I'll link it in
reading it, because it that quote at the end of it that you just mentioned, and people can be difficult to love, and people can get annoyed and frustrated and angry, but you choose to accept them in your life or not, or you let them go. And I'm not saying that it can be easy, and it's not black and white. Nothing about us, the complexity of us, is black and white. But that acceptance and moving on. But once we have the love within ourselves, the love will go outward. If we don't feel that self-love, it's very difficult. And I've often said, in the last year or two, I have had this realization that we expect love from people. We want people to love us. We're not loving ourselves, though. There are people out there that have never learned to give, are incapable of receiving love, and therefore giving love. There was a break somewhere. Now, whether that's blueprint and the design of the brain and what was happening, or whether it's nurture, we'll never really know. And I don't think the psychologist working for the last 100 years wouldn't be able to know. But when you think that because somebody didn't learn love or didn't see love or was shown love, they actually don't have the ability or capability, I should say, to receive and give love, you kind of feel there's a bit of a feeling sorry for somebody who didn't get to experience it. If you did, you know. So again, it's that backstory for people's behavior of, you know, maybe they just don't have the ability, but we want something from them, that love that they cannot give. And I think that was a big realization for me. And that brings us really to, is love learnt or earned, or what's going on? Where does it come from? But I think it goes into the survey, really, the people.
Yeah, because there's so many different perspectives.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
That is the thing. You will find, obviously, there's only 3 of us here, and these are only our opinions, but anybody watching or listening, I'm sure you and everybody you know will have, you know, a different view on love, and it will mean something different to everybody, or the same.
Let us know.
Exactly.
Let us know what
Please let us know.
Let us know
in the comments what love
We'd
is
love
to you.
to hear.
You might be screaming at the screen, being like, "You are so wrong." Which, if we are, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, speaking of other people's opinions,
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Of course.
No, jump in.
Do you believe that love is an emotion, or what's going on?
I think it is both an emotion and an action, but I don't think that one can exist without the other, really. Because if you're not acting on love and you're just saying to somebody, "I love you," then what does it really mean? Do you know what I mean? If I'm saying,
I can be like, "I love you,"
I love you,
like,
but I don't want you out of in my life.
Yeah.
Then what?
Doesn't matter.
I'm not really. I'm saying the words "I love you." Like, it has to be back for me anyway. It has to be backed up with action.
But is it an emotion? Is love an emotion?
I would say no. I would agree with Kate and say that it's an action. It's a constant underlying choice. I think it's a choice.
Is it a combination of different emotions? Like,
because I think lust is the emotion most commonly attached to love.
I don't know.
Because I think frustration is an emotion that's attached to love. I think love is something else, but not. I think I would agree with Kate in saying it's an action. Because
I don't know.
I saying I love you could be like a lustful moment or a pleasing moment, me trying to like please you. But unless I do something,
what does it really
mean?
Yeah.
Well, words are cheap. I love you, or love and in love are kind of two different.
Yeah, which is so funny because when I was a teenager and dating my boyfriends, like when you're a teenager, all you wanted was for them to say I love you.
Yeah.
And you're like,
even if they treated you awfully, as long as they said I love you, you'd be like, okay.
You're like 16, they were horrendous. And you're like, okay, whatever. You
You can say to somebody, that makes the difference between friendship and family and intimate love. You can tell somebody I love you, but you may not be in love with them. But that's where the intimate partner maybe comes along. But interesting, I couldn't as a coach talk about love or emotions without mentioning Brené Brown, and she has this beautiful book Atlas of the Heart, and she mentions in it that there was a debate amongst the researchers on whether love was an emotion or not, and I found this fascinating because I just always thought it was, but I think they're thinking that it's a secondary emotion. But there was a research done, and it's in her book, A Shaper, that definitely they did a research on a question. I definitely would not call love an emotion. From 1 to 4, I would definitely call it an emotion. And the results came back at 3.94. So really, it seems like the people out there believe that love is an emotion.
It came back as people believed it was an emotion.
Yeah, it was an emotion.
But I think I now agree what you were saying though is the mix of emotion, because when people think love, I think they think joy, happiness, sadness, frustration. Lust.
And I also think even if it is an emotion, if I'm just feeling an emotion, how is that emotion expressed? Surely love has to be an action, because if I just love somebody and all I'm doing is saying I love you and I'm feeling this feeling inside of my body, and how do they know that I love them unless I act on that feeling? Do you know what I mean?
And also there's so much research that says reminding people that an emotion is fleeting, that they're not going to be sad forever. So are you saying the same about love, that you're not going to be in love forever, you're not going to experience love forever? I think we experience love in so many different ways that it is more than an emotion.
That's very interesting, because obviously there are different types of love. You can love your pets, you can love your family, you can love your friends,
you can love Kate. You'd be like, this is
absolutely. The word love is interesting. Just on that, we'll come to the survey, but somebody had said exactly what you said. Personally, it is demonstrative rather than expressive. So that's a bit on the line of what you're saying. Action. It's an action.
But I think it has to be. I can't think of an argument as to why it isn't.
That feeds into like the 5 love languages, right? Acts of service, words of affirmation, gifts. So like you would be very much an acts of service. That's how you receive love.
But I feel like all of those things are displays of love. Do you know what I mean? It's like if I'm spending it's still you doing something and still acting on something. I just don't feel like it doesn't make sense in my mind for love to just be labelled just as an emotion. If I'm the 5 what are the 5 love languages?
Quality time, words of affirmation, acts of service, gift
giving, and touch.
So
all of those things in themselves are actions. All of those things are doing, and I feel like,
are you giving it the same way as happy? No. You know
what
I mean?
Because when you feel happy, so this is what I think. I think love is a shared emotion, and it has to be. I can be happy alone. I can be happy by myself, and nobody ever has to know about my happiness. But if I love somebody, that love involves that other person. Unless I'm doing something to demonstrate that I love them, they're never going to know. They're never going to feel it, because otherwise I'm just over here feeling this emotion of love
but I think,
by myself. So for me to show you, I have to. Do you know what I'm trying to say? For me, it definitely is an action.
I mean, I know you're more on the religious side, but on the spiritual side, I think even self-love, you would know because you radiate like that release of energy. Like, I get what you're saying. I don't know how to explain it, but I get what you mean.
I just think it's definitely an action. But we're going to hear from some other people, because
I think it'd be a good time. Sorry to interrupt you there now. I think it'd be a good time to define, because obviously Brené Brown talked about this research, and then they correlated their own definition of love, which kind of correlated with what And it says, now I love the way Brené Brown says, it's a risk to define the term like love. And she personally thinks it might be best left to the poets, artists, and yacht songwriters. But a definition did emerge from their research, her research and her team, and it withstood the test of new data. So it says, we cultivate love when we allow our most vulnerable and powerful selves to be deeply seen and known. And when we honor the spiritual connection that grows from that offering with trust, respect, kindness, and affection. Love is not something we give or get. It is something that we nurture and grow. A connection that can be cultivated between two people only when it exists within each one of them. We can love others only as much as we love ourselves. Shame, blame, disrespect, betrayal, and the withholding of affection damages the roots from which love grows. Love can survive these injuries only if they're acknowledged, healed, and rare. So that's what Brené Brown says in her book, Atlas of the Heart. And I think that sums up a lot of what we've said.
And if you're interested in the arguments of whether love is an emotion or not, during her research, she has a whole TED Talk on it.
I'll link it below.
Yeah, it's really long, but it's really interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, she's very interesting. Her work is brilliant, basically.
But like, there's 4 people here, and every single one of us, while we agree on some level, wouldn't define it the same way. And so what is the survey you did?
Okay,
so this is also 55 other people have very different opinions.
So Patricia put out a survey on her social media, asking, what was the question?
Well, actually, these were people that I know, and the question was, what 3 words are synonymous with love for you? So when you think of love, what 3 words come into your head that would be associated with it? So it was very general, and I got 55 answers. Thank you, everybody who took part in my survey. I really appreciate your time. And it was super interesting.
It was very interesting, and we're going to hear the answers in just a minute. I also put out a question on our Plastic Paddy social media asking that same question that we've just been talking about. What does love mean to you? I'll quickly go over ours before we deep dive into Patricia's survey questions, which are very interesting. But some of the answers we got on our social media were accepting someone for exactly who they are and not trying to change them into who you want them to be, which me and you have both said that, Shauna.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people will say that, and the reason why I think that would be quite a common answer is because not even secretly, really, underneath everybody's bravado, I think ultimately what we want is to be accepted completely as we are and not have to put on the front.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a common answer because really that's what people want for themselves.
Well, I think it's the love they want to give themselves.
Yeah.
And the love they want to receive.
Yeah. And accepting yourself for exactly who you are as well. You can't beat yourself out of being who you are. You are who you are.
I mean, you can, but you're going to collapse at some point.
It's hard to accept some of the parts of yourself that you don't necessarily like. But yeah, that's part and parcel of it, unfortunately. One of the other answers was unconditional, which we will go deeper into in Patricia's answers. I have a controversial statement. I don't believe in unconditional love. And then another one of the answers on our social media was something that we're all chasing, which again, I think if people just drop the act and are completely 100% honest with themselves and everybody else, I think ultimately we all are chasing love. Yeah. And it might not be in a romantic sense. Some people, are happy with platonic love or familial, love from their family. But nobody can live without any kind of love. I believe that. So I think ultimately everybody is chasing love from in some form. And
that feeds into hopeless romantic. And I'm the biggest hopeless romantic ever. Yeah.
Are you actually? But I think you're quite cynical about love.
Okay, listen. Just call me out. It's fine. I am the biggest. At the bottom of of it.
I think it's fake. Yeah, I think the cynicism is fake.
Oh yeah,
I think you're soft, but you pretend to be tough.
we have this conversation all of the time.
Well, welcome to my life.
Yeah.
When I was your age, I was the very same. When I was in my 20s, 30s, I was a hopeless romantic, but there was times where I was cynical and stuff, but it was all
because it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Everything that I've gone through, I'm like, no. I've worked too hard to make it this far. Let's just build up a little wall. But at the end of the day, I would love to just be swept off my feet and not have to do any of this anymore.
Yeah. So if some nice Irish fella could come and smash Shauna's walls down, that would be fantastic.
Woo-hoo. Now, I must say,
Patricia will help you.
Yeah.
Can I just say that I think I messed up my my teenage years in Ireland growing up, and I think I mentioned this to people. I don't know. They were probably international. There was books called Mills and Boon.
Oh, I've heard of Mills and Boon.
Oh, I was like, what is this?
They're like really
small little books,
romance stories, aren't they?
They're really like he comes riding across the beach in his white horse, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now I think I messed my heart up.
Yeah.
Reading these,
but I'm very lucky that I have parents who have a very great love story.
Oh, amazing.
Well, beautiful.
And I think they should write. I think my mum needs to sit down and write a movie about it.
Yeah, she does. Their love story is wonderful.
Yeah.
But it's
so like
given Shauna very high expectations.
Yes. Oh,
I've only ever lived in a house that my dad has built with his own hands.
Yeah.
Because my mum said, build me a house. My dad went, yeah, okay. Or things like they once were driving an RV and got run off the road and crashed into the middle of the lake in New Zealand. And my dad rescued my mum and then went back for her wedding ring.
Yeah.
Because he was like, no, she needs this.
He's literally saved her life.
Yeah.
They've been together since they were 14.
Yeah.
It's very romantic.
So I have a very fake sense
of what love should be. Yeah.
Well, I suppose, but there are times where people do that, those acts of kindness and stuff, that caring and what's important to you. But I think my Mills and Boon book was a little bit different. It was very fantasy, but that kind of, oh my God, is this what it is? That perfection, that illusion of the perfect man and the perfect whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was part of it. I think. Cynicism.
Thank you. Cynicism comes from is like, well, if I can't have that, then there is no other definition of love, which is not true. And as I get older, I see that.
And I think your generation's version of that is Mills and Boon. Our generation's version of that is Disney princesses.
Okay.
Yeah.
In every single Disney film, the prince comes and saves her, and it's always just been this narrative of a woman being saved.
Even in books and cartoons, it was always a damsel in distress that comes and gets saved.
So as a young girl, you grow up, even if it's subconscious, even if you're not really conscious of it, you grow up with this expectation that a man is going to come into your life and make everything's going to be better. And I promise you, that's not true. I promise. Any young girls out here listening to this or watching this, I promise, I can't express the words I promise
you she's passionate about
any more than I am. It is not going to fix your life. You can do it yourself. Like having a romantic partner is a great thing to have, not absolutely necessary for you to thrive and grow.
This is where self-love comes into it. When you respect and value and your life and the love for yourself and your heart, everything changes. And now, I'm telling you this from somebody who's done that very journey, that self-love journey. And it has changed and enhanced everything. So again, it's that chasing from the outside externally, as we say, chasing love. It was inside me all along for me to connect with that from that foundation. If you build a house and it's not got a good foundation, what's going to happen when a tornado comes?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're left broken and in bits.
And imagine if we taught that to girls from a young age.
Imagine it. Yeah.
But then don't swing my direction.
Yeah.
Because I've swung so far the opposite way and been like, no, I'm going to do it by myself. And I've achieved a lot.
You have. You definitely have.
But alone. Because I was like, no, I can do it.
Yeah.
Can I touch on something just briefly? You talking about your dad and your mum's relationship. I heard about sometimes we can want the love from the love from a man like your dad. You're searching for a character like somebody else in your life.
Don't they always say that though? You marry someone.
You can do. But also that when you see a relationship that's beautiful and what you just said there, what your dad did for your mum, sometimes you mentioned unconsciously we can be going, oh my God, that's what I want. That can be good. It can be a bit high standards because what's happening is whoever comes in, the expectations are a bit high, so there can be a bit wobbly.
Like, yeah.
But at the same time,
she's like
self-respect and self-value of yourself, but also realizing that your dad was your dad and his relationship with your mum was a dynamic in itself. So you might meet somebody great, like how your dad was and how he cared for your mum, but it'll be a different dynamic between you and the guy that you eventually meet.
And I'm sure it was not as pink colored glasses.
I know it wasn't.
No, it's happening in the next year. I'm manifesting this. It's happening in the next year. But I'm sure it wasn't. But as a child, it was.
Of course.
Like Disney princesses. Yeah. They're not as great as now.
We thought they were, yeah.
As a child, like, wow.
Yeah, exactly.
But it goes back to Brene Brown and vulnerability. I'm not willing to be vulnerable.
You have to be. It's the only way that...
We are two opposites.
Yeah, and it's hard and it's crap. Sometimes it's really crap and it's painful, but this is what I was talking about earlier when I was kind of saying that love is like it's an amalgamation of emotions. It's everything. It's the whole human spectrum of emotions is all bundled up in a bow called love. And it, you know, some days it's really painful and some days it's the euphoria, and it's everything in between on other days. But in order to have it and give it, you have to be vulnerable, and it's rubbish. And I know it's hard for you, and I'm really sorry.
But she knows this because we have this conversation every time.
But it's worth it. Ultimately, it's worth it in any context of love, in any not just romantic love. I know that's the tangent we have gone off on a little bit, but I've mentioned this to you before, Shauna, about friendships as well. Even in platonic relationships, you have to be vulnerable and you have to communicate and be honest. And there's no getting around it, unfortunately.
No, and I think I've gotten much better as I've gotten older. Even with you, like obviously we love each other.
Yeah,
we're related. So we have a foundation of non-choice love, but we choose to love each other.
I was just thinking there, and it just came out while we were talking about this, is that my cousin had a beautiful relationship with his wife years ago, and I remember my sister asking, what's the secret of that good relationship, you know? And I think he answered something like this. This is just a memory I have. It's all about compromise. But
Caitlin's favorite thing.
Yeah. But this was a male now, and he said, but I would say that men are not as good as compromising as women.
And I would,
agree.
Yeah. So there can be a little bit of what we expect from other people, what we want, what our needs are. So I say to even younger people, if you know what your wants and needs are around love of that intimate partner, it can be super foundation for finding that. Yeah. Because sometimes we think we know what we want and we need, then we get something and it's not actually what we want and need. Yeah. Or deciphering the difference between what we need and which is non-negotiable, and what we want, which is desirable. But I'm not going to shun you away if that's not. It can be give or take. Yeah. So I think all of that, and with compromise with any relationship really, be able to know when you say yes and no, and people did not taking things personally and all that. But I remembered what he said there, and it always stayed with me. I thought, what a brilliant answer.
But I think that goes back to what we said at the very beginning of this episode, is the introspection. Like, you have to know your non-negotiables and know yourself before you do that compromising, because you can't you can compromise on really big parts of yourself. But I think, like Kate said earlier, you can't fake it. Well, you can fake it, but only for so long.
Yeah, it's very limited.
I've been joking in the last few years, going, if I could have my way, I'd take the conditionals out of the English dictionary and the grammar, because all I ever knew about the conditional tense, should, and all of that. So should, must, have to. Now, you just mentioned it there. We have to. So I'm all about language and cleaning up the language, because it makes such a difference. Now, do we have to do anything? It's our choice. If I speak to somebody about love and they don't get it, right? They just don't get it, and they go, that's fine. Your life is yours. Your experiences are yours. Your choices are yours. Your decisions are yours. But the beautiful thing is, I've been talking to my mum a lot about self-love. She's 87 on her next birthday. And it's been beautiful, because she's kind of getting it. She's
Yeah.
like, that makes sense. This inside out journey.
That's
I don't know.
See,
if
it's
it makes-
never too
But
late,
it's never
guys.
too late to kind of go, okay, loving yourself. Imagine that. And interestingly, the poem I'm going to recite later on that I wrote, I read that to a few 80 plus friends of mine. And a couple of them went, oh my God, I don't think I ever loved myself. And I thought, I think it was the first time that revelation of, oh my God, self-love, imagine that. And, I gave to everybody else. I gave and gave. But what love did I give to myself?
Yeah.
But it's never too late.
It's never too late, absolutely.
Right. We went off on another tangent
It
again,
was
guys.
just so
I'm
good.
so sorry. So back to Patricia's survey. Just remind us of the question.
The question was, what 3 words to you are synonymous with the word love?
Mm-hmm.
I.e., that meant when you hear the word love, what 3 words would come into your mind? And I asked people not to overthink, but it was very interesting 24 hours. Thank you again to everyone who took part, because again, some people ask for more context around the romantic love, which is fine, which is great, because it's all about opening conversation and some people said, thank you, that was such a lovely question. It really got me thinking, So it did turn out beautiful, and I love the results because actually they match what Brené Brown and says about love. The same words were used, and the ones really were trust, respect, and kindness and affection, and all of those came up pretty high.
What are your 3 words? Your own 3 words of love. What does it mean to you?
Well, unconditional was definitely there.
Mm-hmm.
I think a bit of forgiveness as well.
Yeah.
And that caring, that really, when you feel that somebody loves you and they care enough to that bond, it's a bond, like, that caring bond. So yeah.
Shauna, what are your 3?
Family and friends, because I think that's not those close people in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So like closeness. Unconditional, which I know you don't believe in,
Mm-hmm.
and necessary. I think it feeds back into Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I think you can't survive without it.
Yeah, I would agree.
In whatever format it comes to you in.
Yeah.
The 3 words somebody said in the survey was all you need.
Oh, that is very sweet.
So yeah,
that's very, very
which goes
sweet.
back to necessary.
And when the other word that almost replaced necessary was appreciation. Because when I think of I love coffee and flowers.
Yeah.
Like these 2 things get me through. But it's because I appreciate sitting down with a cup of coffee. I appreciate looking at pretty flowers. And I think love for somebody, you appreciate their presence in your life.
Yeah, I would agree.
That came up.
My 3 were kindness, laughter, and humility. I think if you can laugh on the days when it's really hard,
really shit,
you're onto something. Like if you can laugh, it's like you're bulletproof almost. I promise you that. Like, yeah, and that's the thing. Like that's where the longevity is in any kind of relationship that you have. Like you're gonna fall out. You're gonna have rows. You're gonna mess up. You're gonna make mistakes and upset that person, and vice versa. But at the end of the day, if you can still come together and make each other laugh, it's going to get you through the crap times.
Yeah.
Kindness, because it's just so, again, for me, love it's really an action. Again, not just romantically, in any area of your life, being kind to somebody is partly how they know that you love them. If you're always just letting them know that you're here if they need you, or helping them, with something, small acts of kindness make a big difference. And just think of yourself. Everybody likes to receive small acts of kindness, so imagine what that makes the other person feel like when you give them that. And lastly is humility, which was a big lesson to learn for me in my current romantic relationship, and has been in all of my platonic relationships, is that the world doesn't revolve around you, actually. And sometimes
honestly,
you have
shocking,
to, shocked and appalled. But yeah,
shocking,
you have to. It's like that was like a punch in the face for me. Like, oh, it's not. This life isn't just about me. That you really have to make room for other people and all of the mess that comes, with them and being human. So yeah, humility for sure. Those are my 3, I'd say.
Can I pick up on the laughter thing?
Yeah.
Because I love that. And you know what? And I think it's synonymous with not taking yourself too seriously.
Mhm.
None of us are getting out of this alive, really. And
Yeah.
it's just those moments, like you say, when you can have a bad day, a bad time, and you can laugh, or you cannot take yourself seriously. And my work around creativity is a lot about that as well. It's like bringing out that inner child, that playfulness, that love, that passion, which it came up. People used the word passion, that passion for something that you really love,
The, like,
you know,
spark.
that spark, and kind of rekindling that in your adult life, because I think it's very easy to lose it as we go through life, because life's challenging experience can really drain us and stop that energy flow in our heart where the love is coming from, and we can close, like we spoke the last time about stay open. Sorry for the way I said that.
That's
Patricia's
slogan. Stay open.
Because we do, and I did, and I say it, and I because that's what I did. I closed every heartbreak. I closed. What I was doing was feeding the next heartbreak. So I'd meet somebody. I mean, I told somebody years ago that I loved them. I knew they didn't love me.
Yeah. I've been there.
I knew.
We're like dragging out of it. Really, yes, you do.
If I tell, but then I'm like, you know, that was a big mistake. How stupid could you be? You knew that. But then there was a bit of a like, fair play to you, wearing your heart on your sleeve. It was kind of an opening in a way, and then realizing that I was in love with the sheer act of being in love, or the sheer feeling of being in love, but I wasn't really in love with the person. And that was a big revelation for me, big life learning, really, for moving on. Going, be careful of being in love with the idea of being in love, rather than being in love with the person in front of you.
Somebody told me that when I was young, a teenager. Yeah.
So there's a difference between I love you, which can be pretty, and it's used
in love with
like
you.
Somebody wrote universal, and you brought it up earlier on. I love you. I think we might do something on the different languages and how it says. Gra McCree in Irish is love of my heart. You know,
or Gra more like the big love. Going back to what you said though at the very beginning, where that like laughter, not taking yourself too seriously. That's like the Grammar of Ireland for me. I think they're really good at that. Like
I would agree.
I think, you know, they can be quite self-deprecating, but on the flip side of that, they're really good at like that. Yeah.
We mentioned that in the last one because with the Irishness define it, not taking yourself seriously, but the self-love and the self-deprecating. I say, right, with the self-love, appreciating the complexity of you, your brain, your heart, your body, your life, your existence, your experience, and loving that enough, of that miraculousness. But also your body. Our bodies are failing on us. We're getting sick. We're getting sick. We're getting ill. I was at home last week and my mom sprained her ankle, but I was bathing them and massaging and putting anti-inflammatory gel and to the bad leg. And I said, put in the other leg to that. And she goes, that's fine. And I said, hold on a minute, how do you mean it's fine? I'm going to do both of them. And she goes, but there's nothing wrong with that leg. It's this leg that's the problem. And I said, hold on a minute. You got to love both your legs. You got to show both of them love. And I said, the other leg is going to be doing a lot of hard work in the next week while the other one is healing.
Yeah.
And she went, oh, I suppose you're right. And in goes. And then we had this week of me kind of bathing her legs and putting the cream on and massaging them and whatever. And every time I was going, you got to love your legs and concentrate on what you can do, not on what they can't. And they will bring you more. What we give in love, we get back. It's like there was research done about a plant and speaking of lovely to the plant, lovingly to the plant, or speaking nastily. I haven't looked up the research myself, but I've heard of it, that the plant looks different at the end of that week. And I was telling my mother this. Anyway, that was all a part of the inside out journey, you know. So loving your body, and do you know what? Even if you find it all a bit woohoo, talking nice to your knees or your ankles and saying, I love you and thank you for being gratitude, do not criticize.
No.
Do not criticize your legs and oh, look at them, they're awful. And like we mentioned the last time, there is a bit of an epidemic in Ireland with self-deprecating. And when I was there, I hear it even more. Oh, look at this, look at my feet, look at my legs, look at my body, look at my... And I just think it's kind of, there's a sadness within me because I used to do that, but I can see the huge difference in my own body and in my own life for working on that self-love, the root of it all, and what blossoms from there. And then my mother turned around and said to me, well, you're looking better for it. And I said, well, join my club.
You can look better.
There's a saying, a quote, I think, from Roald Dahl. I'm not sure if it's in
Oh
one
my gosh,
of his
this
books,
is my favorite quote ever.
But there's a
Roald you're gonna say.
Roald Dahl quote that says, "Think nice thoughts, and you will always look beautiful," or something like that. It's like the sun will shine out of your face, and you will always look beautiful.
Yes, so beautiful.
And I just wonder, like, is there something in it? You know, the thoughts that you think and the words that you say about yourself and just put out into the world.
It's from
does
the twins.
that have an effect on your physiological, you know, on your actual body?
I think it does though, because I think it goes to the energy when you. I know we have very different senses, but I think people radiate an aura, an energy, whatever you want to call it. And if you love yourself, you radiate a warmth.
Yeah.
And if you don't love yourself, I think you don't like radiate.
Well, this is what my mom said at the kitchen table. You're getting better looking.
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell, basically.
So it's not even better looking aesthetically. It's that shining from the inside out. And so and she's not the only one who said it in the last year of this work. So I think there is something in Ramadan. I love that quote, and I have heard it. You will shine, that radiance, that loving, compassionate radiance that you have for yourself will shine through.
And it's like happiness will shine out of your face like sunbeams, and you'll never be
ugly. Oh, yes, that's it.
So beautiful. So absolutely. So even if at this point in time you're not ready to start talking nice to yourself, please do not criticize your miraculous being.
Yeah, that's a smaller baby step. Just don't say the mean thing.
Yeah, if you're not going to say the good things, just at least don't say the mean things.
And if you go through the journey, and even if you do, if you're aware of it and then let it go, don't judge or criticize or beat yourself up about it. Just be conscious of that this might actually help. You know what I mean? And if you want to, if you think that it will benefit you, please do, and let us know how you get on. And
lads, just try it. What have you got to lose at the end of the day? You know.
Listen, if we're trying all these creams and gels and injections, you might as well try this.
Try something inside. Yeah, absolutely. It's
my mum is
completely free. At 87 years of age.
Yeah.
Can you ask
for anything
She's loving both
better?
of the legs.
So
in my work in the last couple of years, I just wanted to mention this quickly as well, that I have said to people about self-love. And I remember one time a client saying, but I love myself. I love my eyes. I love the way I look. I love when I get dressed up. And I'm like, hold on a minute. But the unconditional love for ourselves is however we're dressed up, or we get up in the morning, we look in the mirror, or whatever's happening, or whatever's going on, that we still love ourselves. That's unconditional self-love. The other is aesthetic love, that I love the way I look, and I love my smile, I love my eyes. That comes more from ego, which we mentioned the last time can be...
You've got to keep your eye on that seat.
It's never going to make you happy, basically. It's all external. True happiness, and all of the greats, Socrates and Aristotle and Confucius and Buddha and all of that, it was all doing the inside-out journey. And that is the pure happiness. It's like that chasing from the outside, chasing all these creams and stuff to make me look younger looking. But in actual fact, it's inside.
Yeah, it is the inside out. That's the key, guys. That's the journey.
The inside out journey.
So, in your survey, how many people answered was unconditional one of their words?
Well, there was 55 people, and unconditional, 10 people mentioned the word unconditional.
So a fifth of the answers were unconditional, and you've mentioned unconditional love, and it was both of one of your words, wasn't it?
Yeah,
your 3 words. So. Both of you, what is unconditional love to you, and why? Why do you think people deserve it? What do you think about it?
I think I mentioned earlier on, and the fact is that I never saw a thought of love and unconditional. To me, look, somebody messaged me a bit after and said, I feel love is earned rather than deserved. Now, this is crucial because I grew up feeling that I didn't deserve love, that I had to earn people's love. That's so damaging going out in life, because I believe now truly that we all, born into this world, deserve love. It is a gift from our Creator. It is part of our existence. So But imagine all those years where I didn't believe I deserved love, that I had to do to you. You know, I had this pleaser mode running within me. I had to give to gain affection. I had to earn. So I would give and give and give. But I spent most of my life disappointed because the expectations on return and what I needed. So for me, unconditional is I deserve it. I am worthy. I am valuable to myself. Unconditional self-love, no matter how I look, no matter what's going on, I love myself from that miraculous being I am. And then going out with other people, I can choose you to be in my life or not. I can accept you or not accept you. I may not like your behavior, but you as a person, as another human being with the basic human compassion and basic humanity, you deserve to be here as much as I do. This is a world, a planet we're living on. That is the unconditional. However, I don't accept the behavior. I don't condone the behavior. It's coming from somewhere. It's like I said earlier on, the child and the behavior. The backstory would probably break your heart more than annoy you and make you angry if you knew the backstory, but sometimes we don't. So this to me is my definition of unconditional for myself. And then and we said, when you have it for yourself, it's easier to radiate it outwards. So that's really
unconditional to you. And what do you think, Shauna?
Yeah, I would agree with Patricia. And then I think it feeds into what I said about love is just show up as you are.
Do you think that unconditional love is possible in all forms of love? Platonic love, familial love, romantic love? Do you think that unconditional is the rule for all?
No, I think, like Patricia said, we aren't black and white. We are, not straightforward, which is why everything's so difficult. And I think a lot of times love is conditioned. Like you must do X, Y, and Z to receive my love. But I think unconditional love is present, and then you choose how. Like unconditional love is like the truest form of love.
Yeah.
And I think it gets a bit lost or tainted or damaged as we go through life.
You mean like it's what you're born with, and as you grow and have experiences, it gets bumped and knocked around.
Yeah, but I think it's always there.
Yeah, but when people or you yourself put conditions on it,
yeah,
you deserve love. When you act like this or behave like this, you don't deserve it if you don't.
Yeah.
Or to somebody else, you deserve my love, but you don't.
That's like a protection of you.
Absolutely.
And then, yeah.
So my question would be, I'm just stirring up the pot here, guys.
Kate must be devil's
Why not?
So if you're in a romantic relationship, for example, and there are obvious conditions that come with being in a romantic relationship for most people, and I would think that one of those conditions that is at the top of everybody's list is that you don't go with anybody else if we're together in a relationship. You're not cheating, or whatever you want to call it, is not acceptable. So what do you do in that situation if you love somebody? Like, I suppose then my question is, how?
Well, like I could, there are people who haven't been very nice in my past who I still love. My love is unconditional for them. For some reason, I do just love them, and it doesn't mean I have to accept them in my life. It doesn't mean I have to accept their actions against me. But unfortunately, that love will always be there regardless if they've chosen to go with somebody else or if they've done something that's hurt me. Like, I think it's like the energy that runs through everything.
So you think that so you can still love somebody that you were once in a romantic relationship with, even if that love is no longer in the romantic context, is what you mean? Okay, I see.
And like, when I see, that's what I mean by unconditional. It doesn't mean I'm acting on this love, because I agree with you that love is an action. It means that I have this energy or this feeling.
But you're choosing not to act on it. I see what you mean.
Yeah, if somebody cheated on me or didn't meet one of the other conditions, that I am going to put on love to protect myself. I still love them, but I need to walk away.
Yeah.
Or I should walk away.
Yeah. Should and do is
very different.
There was a
Do you think
beautiful.
would you think the same?
Yeah, I just thought there was a beautiful clip. It's from a movie. I can't remember what the movie is. I'm not sure if it's called The Vow or something, but I saw a clip on Instagram, and I think it's Natalie Portman, and she goes into the garden. So obviously there's some family thing going on, and she goes into the garden. Her mother's in the garden, and she says, she's very upset, and she had found out her dad had an affair, and her parents had been together a long time, and she said, I cannot believe you took him back. And I just, and this big dialogue from the daughter to the mother, and the mother is just looking at her standing there with her gardening gloves and stuff. And then she said, we've been together 40 years and he made one mistake, and you want me to get rid of all the good just because of one mistake. Now, that was a powerful clip from a movie, I felt, because there's where the choice, and it's individual. Nobody can tell anyone else if somebody cheats on them, like your example, whether you can build the trust up again or whether you can't, because that's inside us. So the love we feel for people is inside us. Like you saying, oh, my ex, he did me wrong, but it doesn't mean that I don't love him for different other reasons, but I can't accept that he done this, like cheating. It's a condition. I'm not saying terms and conditions that they're not there. I'm saying when we put conditions on love, not on the relationship is different. But then if somebody does do it and they come back and say, I'm sorry and I did that, it's your choice and only your choice. And there's so much complexity in that relationship that nobody can turn around and me say, Caitlin, leave him, leave him, leave him. Because there's such complexity in that relationship that I know nothing about. It is your decision and only yours to make from a whole plethora of dynamics and circumstances within your relationship. And I think that clip was very powerful with regard to 40 years he did everything right and he made one mistake, and it just brings it into that.
It goes back to Brené Brown though, saying like love can withstand things like disrespect,
and you know what?
blame, and you need things like forgiveness and respect to foster that love.
Yeah, and lads, I think I've just had my mind changed. Now we've had that. Now we've just had that conversation and you've like explained it in that way. I feel like I have changed my mind, because when I was thinking of conditional love, I was thinking that was the first thing that came to my mind was like, well, all love has conditions. Like if a mother gives birth to a son and that son grows up to like kill someone, that's going to change her love for him. Or if somebody the most prominent condition in society that I can think of is cheating. So I'm like, but I understand what you mean when you say that isn't putting a condition on love, that's putting a condition on the relationship. It doesn't mean that you don't love that person. And I also am a massive advocate of forgiveness. I really feel like human beings make mistakes all the time, and you can't hold somebody for the rest of their life. There has to come a point where if you decide that you're going to move forward, you have to let things go.
Yeah, carrying that chip on your shoulders just as damaging to you. It doesn't bother them. They don't care. They already did the thing and they're on with their life.
I know you said you're converted, which is brilliant. But
now she's going to be devil's
But I want to ask you something, right? Both of you.
Okay.
Have you been at the receiving end of conditional love, or what you would perceive to be conditional love, or unconditional love, and how does both make you feel when somebody emanates unconditional love towards you?
I might cry if I answer this question.
Yeah, me too. I'm like, take a deep breath.
Do you want to go first?
Nope.
Okay. So, have I been on the receiving end of conditional love and unconditional love? Ooh, yeah. I think I have been on the end of conditional love. It's very difficult for me to explain simply and shortly, but I've been in relationships where I have acted terribly, and we've acted terribly towards one another. And I think the reason for that was youth. We were extremely young, and had no idea how to navigate an adult relationship. We didn't know what to do with all of the feelings that we were having. And I think we just acted terribly towards each other. And I think we were both putting conditional love on one another. It's like, you have to stop doing this in order for me to love you. And it comes back to what you were saying before about knowing people's backstories and really understanding why are they acting the way that they're acting. What is the thing that's going on underneath it all. And I just think we were just kids and we didn't know how to access any of that. We didn't know how to access any of that information. And now looking back, it's crystal clear to me, because as an adult, you just have experiences and you just come to a natural understanding of things. And I can see why. I can see why we were acting that way, because we were kids that had come from, it was tough. We'd had tough childhoods. And I think I'm just very conscious of how much I'm going to say. I'm obviously not going to mention any names, but he had come from a bit of a broken family. He'd sort of had, his parents weren't together and his mum was with a new guy that he really didn't get on with. And so he didn't live with his mum anymore. He actually lived with his older sister, who ended up raising him. She was in her late teens and early 20s. So you can imagine she felt very resentful towards her brother. He's been sent to live with her, and he sort of got passed around school. He got kicked out of school and he ended up in like a behavioural sort of school. And he gained this reputation. I think underneath it all, there was a lot of pain inside of him, but he'd gained this reputation for being a naughty kid, not being very responsible, not being very intelligent, just all of the labels that can be put on somebody. And I had obviously come from, my parents had split up when I was younger. My dad and my mum actually dealt with a lot of addiction stuff as I was growing up. My dad wasn't really around, and I think that completely shaped me. So we were just both of these kids coming from these pretty rough backgrounds, and with all of these guards already up. Even I was very young when I got into my first serious relationship. I was about 14 and we were together for about 5 years, but without even realizing it, completely subconsciously, we met each other and already had all of these barriers up because of things that had happened to us. So I think because of that, our love was incredibly conditional. And now I'm on the other end, where I feel like I'm in a relationship where I think that his love for me is unconditional. And even that, though, is very difficult for me to accept.
Yeah, I think you have to trust. Yeah. There's a lot of trust there.
And just be completely, it's all about, I mentioned it briefly earlier about when you don't love yourself very much, it's very difficult to accept love from other people, because there's a part of you somewhere that thinks that you don't deserve it, and you think that you're not good enough, and you struggle with really strong feelings of like inadequacy, and that's the sort of dynamic. I can't believe I'm saying this on the internet, but that's the sort of dynamic that I find myself in at the moment, where it's the best relationship I've ever been in, and he's one of the best people I've ever met in my life, if I'm honest. But it's sometimes very hard for me to be like, oh yeah, it's me. It's because I'm, again, always working on the self-love like inside myself, and that's the source, guys. That is the key. That's the only way in your life you're ever really going to foster great relationships, is it has to start with yourself.
Brilliant.
So
I'm
sorry for making such a long answer.
Thank you for sharing that vulnerability, because it is talking about your emotions and past relationships and the way things were in our lives can be difficult. So good on you.
Okay, you go.
I was like, oh, we can just skip over me now. It's fine. Like, can you remind me of the question?
It is, have you been on the end of both conditional and unconditional?
But just to finish up, which is more beautiful?
Oh, the one that the unconditional love, because you feel like, although there are, you're struggling with these things, it's almost like there's a reassurance at the back of your mind of like, oh, it's fine, because I have the time to work through this, and he's still going to be there. He's still he's going to love me through all of it. Do you know what I mean? Which is a nice feeling.
It's the purest form, really, and it is the most beautifully felt. Now, you said, I think, and my question would be the words again. Is it I think or I feel? The analytical brain is more the thinking. The emotional brain is more the feeling. And that thinking, you said, oh, I think, or is it really feel? Or is it still think?
I feel like maybe it is think, because I feel like I'm still trying to get to the feel part. I'm still trying to get to the point where I really know it inside of myself.
And do you think your journey, your inside out journey, as I call it, and the self-love will help you to feel it? Because when you feel it for yourself, you can let it in from somebody else.
That's exactly the place that I'm trying to get to, is where I really feel I have such a strong sense of self-love that I know that I deserve the love that is coming to me. Whereas right now those foundations are very shaky, so it's difficult. But Shauna, you go.
Yeah, I think unfortunately most people have been on the end of conditioned love. Before I moved here and made the decision to move here, I was in a relationship and the person was, I will love you if you compromise on these things. Like, it was very much that situation. And thankfully I didn't.
Yeah.
And there were big life things that I shouldn't have even questioned compromising on, but I did because I wanted his love and it was conditioned. So to do those things, I had to compromise. And I compromised on a lot of pieces myself, but there was one last piece that he asked me to compromise, which was moving here. And he was like, well, I'll love you, you know, like, but you have to be in this country for me to love you, whatever. And yeah, I didn't compromise, and here I am.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of my relationships as a teenager, young adult, were conditioned love.
Yeah.
Like, you have to do this for me to continue to love you, or to love you, or whatever. So that wasn't fun.
And feeling unconditional love, have you felt that unconditional love, that somebody loves you? Again, no matter what you do, the love will be there. But
in a romantic sense, no. But I think a lot of my friends, like you and my other friend who I've been friends with since the 4th grade back home, I have worked on myself a lot, and I think I'm a lot different person than I was growing up. And growing up, I made a lot of mistakes to learn to be the person I am. And yeah, it probably pisses you off, but you've never been like, you pushed it too far. Yeah.
I think the unconditional can come too, as I was just thinking about people, you break up and it doesn't mean that you lose that love. And again, if your definitions include respect, trust, warmth, caring, that they still have those elements, but something wasn't there for you to keep that relationship going. Like you say, there's certain things you need and want, and if those are not fulfilled, like for the guy you were talking about, it was like, well, this relationship is not going to survive. So again, that's a different thing than the inside feeling of being loved, even though that's why.
But his was very much like, you need to change these major things. It wasn't him wanting certain things out of the relationship, it was him changing me to fit into the relationship.
Kind of being controlling almost.
Yeah. Very much so. And I didn't think that then.
You could see it. That's what I mean. Perspective is such a, like,
oh yes.
Looking back now, I'm like, what were you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
That's why when we get to know ourselves, we are more aware of what's going on in the dynamic. That's the beauty of it, really. There's times where we don't know what's going on because we're not aware of ourselves or the dynamic of what we're co-creating in a relationship. But the people used to say to me, "You're terrible for staying in contact with exes." And I was like,
"What? Because you did stay in contact with them."
Stay in contact with them. I was like, "Oh," and I said, it was just what happened. I mean, some you do, some you don't.
Yeah.
But it was like, just because the relationship broke down, it doesn't mean that we didn't have something in common. You know, one of my best friends turned out from a relationship years in my 20s. Sadly, Kevin died in 2018, but we had a beautiful friendship. Do you know what I mean? A real soulful friendship.
Yeah.
And when we met first, we kind of had some relationship, but then we drifted apart for a few years, and then through mutual people we met again, and then we grew this beautiful soulful friendship. And you know, I miss him, and that kind of person that would ring you up and say, "What are you doing Saturday?" Or, you know, you'd book something together. But it was beautiful. But people would say, "Oh, I couldn't be friends with my exes," and I'm like, never say never. Again, stay open.
But I think, like what you said, sorry, one last thing is, I think I've been in 2 things recently, not relationships, but like experience 2 people attempting to have unconditional love, and I didn't love myself enough to receive it, and so then they were like, okay, that's the end of this.
Yeah.
It goes back to me saying, I think that if we're not capable of receiving, it may harbor our giving, you know, and vice versa.
Yeah, I completely agree, because even if somebody stood there willing and open to and say, like, I'm going to love you unconditionally.
If you're
there's
shouting
only
back
so
at them,
many
no,
times
I'm not.
people can be shut down before they kind of say, you don't want me to give it to you, so I'm not.
Or
do you know what I mean?
you're right.
Not,
like, when they're stood there and you're like, no, you're not going to give me.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, fine, then I won't. Yeah.
So it's tricky. It is tricky, guys. I feel like we've talked a lot about romantic love today.
I think this though is all about,
And
I think it runs through it though, you know.
I completely agree. And I feel like I don't feel like the love conversation is completely done
like
yet.
part 1 of 6.
Yeah, so I think we'll continue
I love
the same
talking
next
about
week.
love.
Same.
Yeah.
I think we'll continue the same next week. And I feel like I'd really like to get into familial love and platonic love, because I feel like there's a lot to talk about there.
And also the survey, there's some brilliant information from the survey. Talking about the romantic love, somebody put misunderstanding between two fools. It's misunderstanding between, actually they didn't put 2, I just threw the 2 in. It was 3 words: misunderstanding between fools.
That's brilliant. That's so funny.
Well, it can be if you don't understand yourself, you won't understand the other person, and vice versa. So it can be a misunderstanding.
Absolutely.
So that was funny. But there's some brilliant information here, and we can continue it on.
To be continued, guys. So to close us out, Patricia is actually going to read us one of her poems. And it's called
A Love Letter to Self. And this letter was written actually during COVID, because I had a time, and you mentioned flowers. I was buying flowers for myself, and I was like, I can buy myself flowers. I think who did
Miley Cyrus has got a song.
But I was like, I can buy myself flowers, and it was just interesting. But this was from a journey of throughout time of building that connection with self and that self-love. And this letter just flowed from my pen one night, and it was so effortless. It was like the story. So this is my poetic story of my journey of self-love, and it's in the form of a love letter to self. At this time, as I do alone myself find, I decide to write a letter from a truly loving mind. I write, my dear, you truly are the loving kind. You are beyond doubt worth loving. This letter will be signed. Oh yes, you are amazing, and your love you do deserve. And from these loving, thoughtful words, please don't ever swerve. From the unique beauty that is inside you, yes, you are as exquisite as those flowers in that bouquet, and from these thoughts, please dare not to ever stray. Instead, be led to the marriage of your soul, heart, and mind, so your true love you can always find. Don't let that love for yourself be ever shaken. Let it be that ever fixed mark which knows no tempest from which to be ever shaken, as true love is never shaken. Not by wind, gale force, tornado, or hurricane. Please do not ever love yourself in vain. Do not to your heart admit self-defeating impediments. Do not let your love be stained with sediments of unworthy, undeserving thoughts, as they simply are not true. For you are always worthy of love, for simply being the miracle of you.
Yay!
Thank you.
Beautiful. So, guys, that's it for this month. Shauna's done over there. That's it for Therapy Thursday for this month. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you.
Please go and follow us on all social media, Instagram, TikTok, and the like. I'll put our handle here, Patricia's handle here, and all of Patricia's information will be in the description. Listen wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Music, etc. And thank you so much, and we'll see you next month.
I just want to say the love and light in me sees and acknowledges the love and light in you all.
Yay! Sinead.
Sinead.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.